thinking about pushing myself in practice back in the day too. This was a reflection of my personality or the character I'd yet to develop at that point in my life. Wrestling, for many, many reasons, helped shaped my character moving forward. But there were still things at those moments that weren't the best about my character.
Yeah.
Things like white lying and trying to cut corners and doing these types of things. And I never, for most part of my life, I've never tried to use diabetes as an excuse for anything. But there's this one distinct moment when I think it was senior year. Man, I was just getting beat up. I'm sure my blood sugar was like super high, and the coaches were mad about the whole performance of the room not doing well and us not getting after it. And after freaking swear, the guy swears or whatever, we just get up on the line, we start doing sprint drills, right? And I'm just like, oh, I just kind of start acting like I'm huffing and puffing more so than just from sprinting, and I just go check my blood sugar, and I'm pretty sure it's like not that bad. Pretty sure it's like 130 or something
Yeah.
like that after like 2 hours of practice. And for whatever reason, I had a can of Coke for like my low blood sugar. And so I'm like, fuck this. I don't want to sprint anymore. It's like 2 hours into this practice. It's like 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock at night for a high school student after being at school all day. And I just stand on the side and crack open a can of Coke. And I start just drinking that thing. I try not to smirk as like I'm on the side and my friends are literally sprinting away from me, turning around and sprinting towards me. And one of my best buddies, who I was always my wrestling partner, or most of the time was, he's like, he knew he, and I never admitted it until like recently that when I talked to him that that I totally got out of sprints once by acting like I had low blood sugar,
Yeah.
which I'm not proud of, but at the same time, you know, it's I don't know, I almost even have mixed feelings about doing something like that because diabetes is hard as it is,
Yeah.
but what level do you have personal responsibility just over everything, and then trying to get out of things, and then I mean, push comes to shove, shouldn't have lied, and
Yeah.
should have just got back on and started sprinting because I definitely was not low and I was not dropping low.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think about that a lot because as a wrestler myself going through practice, I never used diabetes as an excuse because I knew that would be the first thing somebody would think about when when I tried to get out of something that was hard. And so I always only checked it when I legitimately thought there was something wrong with my blood sugar. It wasn't like every time I checked my blood sugar, it wasn't always bad, but sometimes you still have those feelings. You're like, I think I'm getting low. Let's check it.
Sure.
And for the most part, I always tried to do it like in breaks or in transitions. But there's times where it's like we're doing live, and man, I just can't go another round because I might pass out. But yeah, it was always like I always had that in the back of my mind of like every time I went, even though it was legitimate, I'm like, they probably think I'm just being lazy and trying to get out of something. And so it never really crossed my mind to do it on purpose because I already felt guilty about going and check my blood sugar while everybody was still working. And at the same time, it's like, I still wanted to be better. And I also wanted to be for the in my later years, I want to be a team leader. So I didn't want to be constantly going out.
Right.
Um, I just didn't want to be that guy. Like I don't want to be that guy that's constantly faking, whether it's faking blood sugar, or faking injuries, or things like that. I didn't want to be that guy that was um, copping out and so like it's been interesting getting into coaching after graduating because
Oh, because you're a wrestling coach, yeah.
yeah, so after I graduated high school, I went and played football for a year and then came back home and started coaching the high school back home. And my we had a few type ones in and out, never really anyone consistent.
Oh yeah, because
But
I remember you telling me about this when we were living together, and I was like, did you connect with him? Like, did you like how cool would have been? Like, I remember you telling me this, and I'll let you finish your story in a second. But I remember not because now when I work with diabetics, like I'm so like eager, I gotta play it cool. Like if I was dating, right? Gotta play it cool. But like I so want to be there for other diabetics and be a mentor. And so to think that, oh man, how cool would have been to have a coach that was a type 1 diabetic. I remember like pouncing on you, like, oh, did you like connect with him? Does he talk to you about this XYZ? And I remember you're just like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. I have mixed feelings about it because it's like on one side, I want to be able to relate to them, help them through their struggles. Like I legitimately want to do that. But at the same time, I always have that in the back of my head of when I was going through wrestling, like what I just said, my intention of not faking any of those lows. But I
Right.
know like it's so common for kids to fake stuff to get out of things. And so that's almost more on the forefront of my mind versus helping somebody. It's not necessarily that I wouldn't help somebody. It's just like constantly trying to really analyze the situation, be like, okay, is this legitimate or are they just trying to get out of this? And but more so at the same time, most of the type ones that I coached, either I really didn't coach them because like when I was in Missouri coaching, we had I think like one diabetic that was on the team, but he was a freshman, and so he wasn't even in our room because they split up the varsity junior varsity, and then freshmen were in a different room. So I didn't even really get to interact with him at all. And at the same time, I don't think he lasted very long. He wasn't the wrestling type. We'll just put it that way. But
You mean he was soft?
very much so.
We're supposed to be not PC on this episode.
Yeah, he was very soft. And so that's, I mean, and that's almost another reason why I didn't really connect with him is because you could just see the fact that, and that's also why it was on the forefront of my mind. I'm like, this kid, you can just tell by his mannerisms, the way he's carrying himself, and just like the way he just moves through practice. He's gonna be a faker, and he ended up turning out to be a faker because he would fake injuries all the time, and that stuff just annoys the hell out of me, and it bothers me so much that I just
Burst your
can't
beta
stand it.
cells.
It bursts my beta cells, and I can't get over it. Like if somebody does that, I'm like, I can't even look at you, and so yeah, that wasn't a good right experience. I haven't had like very many um wrestlers that I've coached that I don't think none of them come to mind really that have um have really needed my help or wanted my help or um that have like that's literally the only kid I can think of at this point. There was one other one that was he was a wrestler, but I think by the time I got to coach, I don't think he was wrestling anymore because I say that because he was a student at my high school, and he was decently younger than me. So by the time I came back to coach, he would have still been there, but I don't think he was wrestling anymore. So I haven't gotten a lot of chances to actually coach type ones to be on the other end of things. But that's always on the forefront of my mind is like,
Mm,
all right, we, it's I want to help you, but at the same time, don't take advantage of me. Don't take advantage of the other coaches because the other coaches don't really know anything about type 1 diabetes. Like
yeah.
nobody knows anything about type 1 diabetes unless they have it
Yeah.
or they are really close with somebody who does have it. And even then, you they don't really get a good sense of okay, this person is low or they're just trying to take advantage of you. They just freak
Right.
out and say, okay, they know that this is really important and can be really serious. And so they don't want to even mess with it. And so they're just like, yeah, go ahead and check your blood sugar or whatnot.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so it's just an interesting situation. I'm kind of glad I didn't have a lot of type 1 diabetics just because I would have been so in my head about all right, is this person just faking it or
Well, you would have found a flow. Like if you had somehow a wrestling team full of type 1 diabetics. I can't even imagine what that would be like. Everyone with their pups swinging around.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm sure you'd find a balance of
Yeah.
how to approach the situations. But